All right, magic makers. This time of year, we all get reflective. We think about what happened in the past. We also think about what's going to happen in the future. And here's where I want you to just not freak out, right? You know, it's too soon to freak out about your life just yet. Maybe start to freak out next December. Because let's get real here. Like January makes us kind of want to Marie Kondo our entire existence. But if we really have been following the Marie Kondo story, she told us to, like, if this doesn't spark us joy, how to clean our house before she had kids. And then she had kids and she's like, oh, damn. It's hard to keep up the level that she was, telling us to aspire to. So I want you to think about that right here, like, especially as we roll into this episode. Today, I'm giving you a strategy that's not going to only just help you with this new year, but I want us to really, like, how do we start to live this into our life so that we have intention, focus, and especially zero burnout. So if that sounds good, let's do it. So I would say, like, in October, the big trend was hashtag winter arc. And it was really, how do you don't blow off the last 90 days of the year? And I refer to it as Octoberitis, but winter arc got this, like, distraction. So we're gonna stick with that. And maybe you were able to stick with that winter arc, and I wanted to say rock on with your bad self. But now here we are. We're in January. We're moving into the first part of 2025. So what does that look like for you? Right. So if this was like, we were opening in a brand new chapter of the book, we got that new book smell. You know how that a good book smells really good. And here's where I want us to think about, like, how to reset and lay the foundation so that we can really create momentum moving into last year. So if you did amazing in your winter rock on with your bad self. But here's where we start to kind of say, what happened? And so today we're going to cover three things. How do we reflect on our goals without a guilt trip? How do we start to have grace for ourselves so that we're working smarter, not harder? And then how do we dig in, right? Like the kind that sticks but doesn't make us miserable. Plus, I'm going to give you 5 actions that you can take right now that'll help you make this the most productive and peaceful year. And this is, if you've been like, I am looking for peace, this time of year is also when people start creating words. And a word that I've been thinking about a lot is flow. My word for 2024 was reimagine. And this year, my word is going to be flow. And flow could take in a lot of different visuals, a lot of different ways in both my personal and as well as my professional life. So let's just start with the reflection. I have to see where I was in order to know where I was going. And when I do that, it's not to invite you to beat yourself up. I see so many women that if they don't nail something on the first try, they suck. And oof, I'm off to find something else. Or, oh my God, I need to go harder, right? Like clearly what I'm doing right now isn't hard enough. So I need to just double down. But if I don't reflect on how did it go, truly, how did it go without feeling like I wanted the outcome to be different. And if you did want the outcome to be different, that's okay. But is it an extreme? Here's an example. Last year, I told myself I was going to lose 500 pounds, but I lost 300 pounds. Is that a true loss? Or if I look back at it, was 500 aggressive? So, I want us to start to, like, think about those types of things. And so when we do this, I'm not inviting you to beat the crap out of yourself, right? It's really taking a step back and saying, okay, what went really well? Were my expectations aggressive? And many of us get into that aggressive expectations of, I'm going to lose 2 pounds a week. Over 40, that's really not a thing. The fact that you lost 300 out of the 500 pounds, you completely discount that. You're like, but I was 200 away from my goal. But it's like, what are the steps that got you to that 300? And if I continue to take those steps, I'm probably going to lose the other 200. But like, so what went well? What didn't go well? But what did it teach me? Right. And many of us, we just see what didn't go well and we just beat the crap out of ourselves. And so here's the thing, every setback is an opportunity, right? Maybe last year you fell out of your workout routine. And I see it, people come to me like, oh my God, I'm going to work out every day. And I'm like, are you really going to work out every day? Oh yeah, absolute girl. I'm doing it. But then it's like life, right? So then life throws your curveball, 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 curveball. And next thing you know, what was I'm working out every day turns to maybe 5 days, then it turns to 4 days, then it's 2 days. Then you're like, oh, I don't remember the last time I worked out, right? It happens. So in instead of it, just say, you're not lazy. It's like, okay, what can I do differently to set myself up for success? Maybe if I ask that, and if I'm really being reflective, you ask myself, okay, what was it? Did I overcommit? Right? Did I overcommit? Did I say I was going to work out for 2 hours? But really, I don't really have 2 hours in a day. I really have more like 30 minutes. Did I say every day? But it's like, if I looked at my schedule, I'm driving my kid here. I got this work commitment, that's other commitment. And maybe it was just a little bit too aggressive. And so here is where we're in the data gathering, this is, many of you guys know one of my favorite shows is CSI, right? You stumble across the dead body and you look around, you're like, okay, there's a wrench, there's a gun, like there's blood. Like, how did this all happen? Right. So it's like we're using this information so that you can move forward and not shame your way into being better, to say, I just need to take different actions. And that's really where the focus is that I want you to become. And create a space that I'm setting myself up for success. In order to create that space to set myself up for success, I create what I call when then goals, right? And so this is such a game changer for you to create that routine. So it triggers your brain. I'm no brain person, but here's the thing. It's triggering your brain to look for triggers that bring you into actions. And that's pretty much how habits work, right? There's a cue that tells you to take the action. So for example, by March 31st, I'm drinking 3 liters of water. That's my goal. So now how do I get there? So I'm going to backtrack my way and being as specific as possible. You know how I feel about squishy goals. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to hit the target. So for me, water. I fill my water bottle at night, leave it on my bathroom sink. So when I brush my teeth in the morning, I'm going to see my water bottle. That is a cue to start drinking water while I'm getting dressed. So I'm having my first cup of coffee, but in order to have my second cup of coffee, I finish drinking that liter. Boom, 1 liter, done. Now it's time for me to go work out. I'm going to refill my water bottle. And while I'm drinking my water bottle, while I'm working out, I'm drinking my water. My goal is by the time I finish my workout, my water bottle is done. So by the time I'm sitting down for lunch, I'm working through my third bottle of water. Do you see that? So it was like when I brush my teeth, this is what's going to happen. When I'm working out, this is what's going to happen. When I want my second cup of coffee, this is going to happen. So it's like I'm creating these triggers for my brain. And the more specific I am, right, the more my brain loves it. And so if I miss a day and it doesn't go perfectly, that's okay, right? This isn't the 75 hard. Like I don't have to like go back to the beginning. It's like, okay, I missed a day. And then it's like, were any of the cues I set up for myself not, strong enough? And it's just being reflective. Like, how did I get off track? And what are the adjustments that I can make? And so that's the rinse and repeat formula here. Is like, okay, off track, what happened? Right. So it's again being forensic versus being, Mike Tyson and beating the crap out of yourself. And then, as you're doing this, when you work with me, my number one goal is to make sanity your priority. When I first started, and I apologize to those of you who are listening, when I was a baby coach, I would give you a laundry list of do's. And I'm like, this was like tablets brought down from like Moses, like the 10 commandments. If you did not do this, you will perish. And I realized that many of you. And now, as I've like gone through multiple cycles of, coaching, but also in my personal life, some of us like starting 10 things at once just isn't feasible, right? It's just very overwhelming. So here is where we start to make sanity our priority, right? I get it. You got kids, partners, coworkers, aging parents, and it's really easy for you to hit your limit and lose your shit. And then think you're failing because you're trying to like juggle all the balls and learn new stuff. So here is where I tell you, like, you're not a failure if you drop a ball. You're just out of balance. And is there ever a time when like life is just like evenly going along? I don't believe in that. I just feel that we start to learn how to, move the different like Jenga pieces, right? So that, if I pull one piece out, it doesn't all come crashing down. So as you're kind of starting to figure out how to make sanity your top priority, I challenge one of my clients to just take 5 minutes a day for herself. She couldn't get started. She was like, "Oh my God, Kim, you don't understand my life. I've got to shuttle my kids here." And then she was an outside salesperson. She's like, "Then I'm running around at different meetings, and then I got evening stuff, I got breakfast stuff. So I just don't have time for me." And I was like, okay. But I know that she loved her dogs. I'm like, she always found a way to come home in time to walk her dogs. And so I said, can you just, when you bring your dogs in or out, how you decide how that works, can you just take 5 minutes and just sit there, pet your dogs? You're not scrolling on your phone. You're not thinking about, disappointment or what happened during the day. You're just sitting there being in the moment, petting your dogs. And she finally did it. And you know what? She said, I loved it. And I said, great. And I said, then I want you to do this at least 3 times a week. And eventually you're gonna want more, be it more time or more days a week. And you don't need like a million hours for self-care, right? You see it all over the socials. Oh, here's my 20-part morning routine. Like, here's my 30-part evening routine. Here's my self-care routine. No, I'm like little pockets of the day. For me, my self-care is my workout. It's, I have, it's like I have a little ritual before I start working out. It's about a 30 minutes before I start working out. And it's like, I have my coffee. I, just kind of like get into the zone of working out. I foam roll and then I lift. But it's like, it's Kim time. And it's very sacred to me. And my day feels off when I don't have that nice, slow entry into the day. I'm protective of my evening time. And my evening time can take as long as it takes. My husband's always like, how long is it going to take you to wind down? And then I'll come to bed. And I'm like, as long as it takes. And some nights I'm like, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and I'm like, I don't need to be here. And my wind down could take an hour. Sometimes I'm like, it takes 2 hours. Just depends. But it's something that I look forward to and it's my sanity. And this year, I want you to think about, is your way that you are living your life keeping you sane? And are there pieces of it that, that you can not stop doing, right? This was several years ago. Susie Welch, she said, many women need to create a stop doing list. And it was a game changer for me. But it's like, do you need to do it? Break it into your day. For my busy women, I'm always like, look at your day and just highlight what's something that you don't need to do. Like, can you delegate stuff? Can you stop doing stuff? Can we figure out a way that you aren't always feeling like you are in the hustle and the grind? But, this self-care part, it's going for a walk. It's breath work. It's sitting in silence, just being still, right? I know this sounds like a little woo-woo, but like when you focus on the now and you get quiet, it's really easy for you to stop catastrophizing and stay focused on what matters. Because I didn't, it's like you don't realize how much work that you have to do on yourself to get results. Many of us think it's outside of us. It's like, I need to follow this protocol, that protocol. And for many women that I see, and now, hindsight being 2020, I look at myself and I'm putting myself in this category too. So it's not like I'm judging you. I'm sharing that now see it before I didn't see it as clearly as I see it now. Mindset, I see so many women get caught up in the like very fixed mindset of like this, it has to be a diet and I have to do it perfectly and I have to versus kind of like zooming out and going flow. Like, does this flow in my life? Am I always feeling like I'm scanning a list of do's and don'ts in order for me to live my life? And here's again why sanity has to be your top priority, because slowly, I see it regularly, slowly, that like mental stress that you're putting on yourself, it's it's adding up. It's pushing you further and further away from your goal, and it's pushing you close, it's pushing you deeper and deeper into the overwhelm versus being able to really lift your head up and say, is this making me sane? Am I like making this so myself so crazy because I'm overcomplicating the shit out of it? And I'm going to tell you, you're probably overcomplicating the shit out of it. You're probably doing much better than you think you are, but you're trying to chase that A plus plus. And one of my mentors told me, go for the B minus, right? It's like, we're not in school anymore. Like, what did you get when you got the A plus plus, right? Did your life cataclysmically change because you got the A plus plus? Go for the B minus, and hell, and sometimes go for the C plus. All right. And this leads into the self-care. I feel like that mental like load, the breath work, the walking, the like taking 5 minutes for yourself is part of the self-care basics. And it's like you're trying to do all the things, but are we getting back to our basics? Right. So it's like sleep. Are you like setting a bedtime so that you're getting at least 7 hours? And this will give you the energy, the patience, and the focus to do what you want to do in life. One of my newer clients, she was like, "Oh, Kim," she's like, I'm just running out of time, the blah, 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 all the things that you probably told yourself." And I said, I want you to just do me one favor. I said, let's just focus on setting a bedtime so you can get 7 hours of sleep. And she was like, Kim, I was just like, rolled my eyes at you when you told me that. And I'm like, fine. But she's like, Kim, with that sleep, I have found that I have been able to have the focus that you talked about. I don't have, I have more patience with my own kids, but more patience with, she's a teacher, her kids at school because she's not so low energy. And she's like, and I actually feel like doing things because she has the energy. I had a client years ago, and she was, had a toddler, and she goes, Kim, with the sleep, I have the energy to like chase after my kid and play with my kid, and I want to play with my kid, and I finally got the stamina back to be able to do that, which leads into movement, right? We don't. Here's where I want us to break away from this, and I was caught in this for a really long time, that your workout has to be an hour, and who says? All right. No one says like there's no golden rule out there that says how long your workout has to be. So let your workout be how it is. I was the 2 hour girl. If it wasn't 2 hours, why even bother? It doesn't need to be an hour long workout. Like figure out what's going to work for you. There's workouts out there that become 15, 20-minute workouts. But the key here is like movement, right? To move our body, and movement is not punishment. So many people think that like in order for a workout to be worth it, I have to be like pushed out of there in like a grocery cart. But it's like your workout should make you feel invigorated. If you always leave that workout feeling like beat to crap, maybe you're overtraining. And that's a different conversation for a different day. And then also nutrition, right? We have to sit down and prioritize our food. And I see it all the time with women who like, I give them a little bit more food. And then they're like, oh gosh, my cravings went away. Oh gosh, like, I feel like I have more energy. Like, yeah, because you've been starving yourself for a really long time. So as you're eating, sit down, right? I was guilty of this too. I used to eat at my kitchen counter all the time. It was like eat at my kitchen counter and then run off. Or, I was a trainer for a really long time. So I'm like, I was eating standing, like shoveling the food into my mouth, because I had 10 minutes between, client A and client B. And as you're eating, prioritize the protein. I know you hear it over and over again, but prioritize that. Like, just see if you can just focus in on that. And like, how much are you actually eating? If you don't track anything, track your protein today. How much protein are you actually eating? And then fiber and healthy fats, right? You don't need a fancy diet, because if I put enough protein on my plate, all the other stuff will fall apart. And then start small, right? This is huge because so many people, like, when I give them the just sleep, or can we do some walking, or can we pet your dogs? They're like, what else? And what else? And I was like, do that first, right? I want to think of this as like a chess game. You take this one step, and then I take another step, because like I said, I used to be here's your like tablet, do these things and you will be fine. But what I found is that it starts to overwhelm, and that if you are like, going through and you're checking off the boxes and you skip a couple, you're like, I suck. So that's why I'm like, let's just start small, right? They're like, new habits are like babies. Do you like give birth to your child and expect it to like walk the next day? No, you're like, it's, I don't have children, just for the record. So I don't know, does it take 9 months before your kid starts to walk? 9 to 12 months. But in between there, like, they're doing all sorts of things. They're scooting, they're crawling, rolling. So we want them to start small. And so here's where I'm going to say, pick one thing, nail it, then move on. Um, so in October, I challenged myself to go for a 15-minute walk every single day. And I will tell you that it has been a challenge. Like, some days, I have walked out in my pajamas for 15 minutes, because it's like that, I don't know about you, but I have time blindness. So it goes from like noontime to like 4. Like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's 4 o'clock. What happened in those last 3 hours? So I started doing that, and it's been, I will say, even for me, it's a challenge, right? I just like, oh crap, I got to just stop what I'm doing right now and go outside for that 15-minute walk. And nothing has ever fallen through the cracks in those 15 minutes that I've been out. And it's been a strengthener for me to be like, you know what? It's been a while since I pushed myself to do something that I don't normally do. Like working out, yeah, that's what I do. It's like I don't think about that. It's like who I am, so I do. But this is like a new habit that I'm like, oh, it's been a minute since I've done this. And so I think about, and I tell this story regularly. So Jerry Seinfeld, comedian, he told himself that in order to be like a really good comedian, I have to have a whole, catalog of jokes. Well, in order to have a whole catalog of jokes, I'm going to write a joke every single day. And every day that I write a joke, I'm going to put an X in the calendar. And every day. And he didn't judge the jokes. He just said, it was just exercising a muscle every day. Sit down, write a joke. It didn't have to be a complicated joke. It could be a knock-knock joke. He just said, I'm going to write a joke every day. And so the goal, and he said to himself, don't break the chain. So every day on the calendar, big red X, big red X, big red X, big red X. And so to see like how many days he can go. And like, I know you girlies, you want those X's, right? You want to see those big red X's on your calendar, the check box, whatever it is that brings you joy. And so here's where I ask you, like, what would that red X be? Could it be the drinking of water, the 3 liters a day? Could it be the 10-minute walk, turning off your phone, leaving Mel Robbins, she's famous for, she says she doesn't leave her phone in her bedroom anymore. She puts her phone in her bathroom, so that like it's just, I have to, like, it's a considered walk to get there. So start small. Here's where we build the confidence, because success builds on success. And so, like, let's just think, like, I want you to be successful. So you'd be like, oh, look at me, I did it. And then you want to do it again and get that feeling, and chase that feeling. And then here is where this last one, right? It's going to be hard, hard, hard. And I actually have a podcast coming out in a couple weeks all about this, boundaries. And recently I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and she asked me, like, what's the number one thing I want women to know about belly fat? And I said, you got to set boundaries. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, the reason why many people, you know, yes, belly fat, hormones, absolutely, all that stuff. But the number one thing is that when you understand that, but I don't set boundaries to take the actions to counter the belly fat, that is a problem. And boundaries aren't selfish; they're essential, right? You can't say yes to everything and expect to have what you want. Like, it's really impossible. So as you move into this winter reset, we move into the season. Is this the season for you to take on something? And I ask that all the time because I know that, some of us have children and they might be in a sport right now that you're in the thick of it and you're driving, here, there, and everywhere. You might be in the stage where like it's a busy season at work. And so you like barely have enough time for yourself. You could be in a season that's you're in an aging parent season and you're doing a lot of stuff for them. And so you have to be like really honest about what season you're in. But then you also have to be honest about what is that circle of time that you are going to protect. There's a woman who did a podcast, this is years and years ago, and she said, there's certain things on your calendar that you want to protect like a mama bear, right? Like she called it tiger time. Like this is my time and it's going to take a lot for me to move this off my calendar. And that's how I feel. For me, that's how I feel about my workouts, right? It's like for me to rejig my workouts, and I do it, but it's something more. It has to be something big, right? It can't just be me blowing myself off. And it's similar to what I was doing with these walks. It's really easy for me to blow my walk off. Like no one's gonna call me and be like, girl, you said you were gonna walk on Tuesday and you didn't walk on Tuesday. But it's like it's me, right? And do I hold myself accountable to me, not in a beat the shit out of my way, but more like watch me kind of thing is how I'm looking at it. But I want you to think about like, are you in that season? If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't really understand all of this, I like you're feeling the pull. I am still holding those 12-week strategy sessions. So you and I sit down and we map out what 12 weeks looks like for you. And here's where, like, I'm going to ask you some hard questions and we're going to really put the rubber to the road. All right, friends, let's wrap this up. Let's say your winter reset is all about three things: seeing where we came from, reflecting with grace, and understanding, like applying the right kind of grit to this, right? These here, these five things, they're your blueprint, right? They're your blueprint for anything, right? First, we're going to create those when then goals. When I do this, then I'm going to do that. Ask myself, is my plan going to make me sane? Does it require me to be perfect? Does it require everything to like, all the lights to be green in order for me to make it to work on time, right? We've all had those moments where like, if everything is green, there's no traffic, it's gonna be rocking. Self-care. What are we doing for self-care? And I'm not saying you need a 40-step routine, like even the 5 minutes of petting your dog. And then what is that one small, tiny step I can take and celebrate the shit out of it as I start to become more and more consistent? And boundaries. Do I have any? And if I don't, how do I start to kind of carve out that little bit of time so that I can start to protect my energy, protect my sanity as I start to make these moves? And if this has resonated with you, do me a favor, share it with a friend, tag me on Gram and let me know which strategy resonated with the most. And remember, slow progress is still progress, right? The tortoise and the hare story, like who won? The tortoise, because it took smaller steps. You can't skip over stuff. I know I want to skip stuff too, but you can't skip shit. All right, you got this, and I will see you back next week for another episode. Enjoy the rest of your day.